Yo. Still working on video games. So last time we got 2 new garbage blocks programs. So today I need to do, well, at least one more. I'm gonna do the remaining 4 in the next hour.
Dad.
I'm working over here. Can you stop dying for a minute? Okay, so we need to make a new garbage block. Which means I need to make a new idle. Okay. I guess I will just do this for this one. Make it a little bit easier on us. Okay, that's the 10. Okay, so we got that done. Let's go to 5, I guess? I must never set it for a 4. Right, didn't add that in. Okay, so we got a new block in. So now to actually code this one. Now then, I do not want it to make a match. So we got these in here, so let's go... $10, set match to 0. So now you can no longer match it. Next up, I need to make sure you can't move it. Which is grab gem. And then in grab all. So that should make it so now you cannot match or grab that block. So next up, I need to set up the timer for it. Is that in throw garbage? No. Spark spawn garbage. No. No, it isn't throw garbage. No, I just passed the timer into that. Not really. If it is working, nobody's saying anything. Somebody said something earlier when I started streaming and there was background music, but after that, it went quiet. No, it's not going to be in Spark Spawn Garbage. It's going to be in Effects under Spark Effect Movements. Okay, now we have an else. That'll set the timer to 3 on that block. So next we need a copy of the bomb block code. How do you spell roulette? I don't know, that doesn't look right. Yeah, I think I was right.
Oh god, oh god, oh god.
So if when timer is less than or equal to 0... I don't know if I'm gonna need these. And I'll get rid of that. Okay, so we should have the bare bones of a block down now. Can't pick them up when they go away, that happens. Okay, so we got the bare bones of it done. Now to actually do the roulette part of it. Okay, so how am I going to do the roulette part? Okay, so to do the roulette part of it, it's going to just randomly select a direction that has a gem. The issue, of course, I can pretty easily just keep randoming the 3 directions until I find a gem. But that doesn't take into account if there are no gems.
What you could do is have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then choose, using the choose command, choose element 1, element 2, element 3, or element 4. Which the first time it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Choose one of those. If, say you pick element 2. If element 2, maybe that's right. If it does not have a block there, pop element 2 out of the array. So then it should be 1, 3, 4. Actually, that won't work.
I don't know if I want to make an array for this anyway. Do I know how to hardcore code? Theoretically, it's been a long time since I've done any of it, but I've done assembly code before. Assembly, C, C++. That's what I was most familiar with. I did some dabbling in Ruby. Unix isn't a code language or anything, but I know a lot of the original learning I did was in Unix, like straight up typing your file with a text program. Why has hardcore code class, why has that fallen out of fashion? because in order to make more complex things, if you spend all your time on the lower end things, you're never going to get anything done. If you spend the equal amount of time on... If you spend your time, a set amount of time on lower end things, you can program very simple things, because you're doing so much hard legwork all on your own. Whereas we've gotten to the point where there's a lot of systems in place that can program and handle things for us, which lets us do bigger, more complicated things in the same amount of time, because the engine, or whatever, that we happen to be programming in, is doing a lot of the bare-bones legwork for us. Like, let me tell you a real simple example. Construct displays graphics to the screen. Why should I have to program how to display a graphic to the screen? Even if I was going to do hardcore coding with basic lines, you'd go find libraries and things for that. There's no way you'd do that every time. That'd be ridiculous. The code exists, use it. And going in and using engines is really just kind of an elaborate form of using predefined engines. Or libraries, predefined libraries. Like, using an engine is mostly just a whole crap ton of libraries of crap that you may or may not need, but can use, so you don't have to program yourself. And you can focus on doing the thing that you actually want to do. If it says anything, I was originally programming Well Gaia. The very, very first iteration of Well Gaia, I actually tried to program in C++. I already was using a library to display the graphics to the screen, but I was still doing the hard basic coding all on my own. And I spent a week getting mouse controls to work. And I got that far and immediately ran into another very basic problem where I didn't even have anything programmed. I didn't even have any game anything programmed. I just had, I can use the mouse on the screen and it displays a cursor where my mouse is. And as soon as I did that, I ran it, like, as soon as I got that done, I looked at the next problem on my list and realized it was the same thing of, it's a really basic, really simple thing that I'm going to spend like 2 weeks on. And at that point I figured this is going to be my life's work. Like, it's not worth my... As much as I want to make this, it's not worth my time. It's going to be my life's... Like, actually my life's work. Why has it fallen out of fashion on teaching, though? So you mean if you go get, like, a... So you mean if you go get a computer science degree or whatever, they don't teach you assembly? I don't know what kind of courses you're taking. That sounds kind of BS.
Crap, I was taking a game design degree and I still had to learn C++. Like, we used UVK. We never used C++, but we still had to learn it. You know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you go get a programming degree, they would at least... I at least had a class teaching you assembly. Not in a, we expect you to use this kind of way, but in a, it's important for you to know if you're going to be programming kind of way. Like, what's going on under the hood. Oh, one of my math teachers said how they're legit There are legit big banks offering him big bucks, all because he knows a dead but very useful programming language, which I forget the name of. I'm gonna be honest, that deal is probably because their servers or whatever are written in an obsoleted language, and it's much easier to find somebody that can upkeep the servers than it is to reprogram the servers in a not obsolete language.
It's also probably cheaper for them
Yeah.
to hire somebody at a higher cost who already knows it than to spend the money and train somebody who doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they're offering the big bucks.
Yeah.
I remember...
Like, languages grow and move on, and you can't teach everything along the way. Languages will be obsoleted, and there comes a point where there are things that are just unimportant. It's not important to know this anymore. But because so many of our systems were programmed over such a long period of time, even though it's not important to know that anymore, and it's impossible, I'll add, to teach every language out there, there will be systems out there that need to know that language, or that use that language. And people will either need to reprogram everything to stay up with current programming languages, or find somebody that can deal with the old language. You were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say it reminded me of when I was going through college and UDK was starting to become obsolete. Like, it was obsolete by the time I graduated, effectively. Like, UD4 had come out, I think? I think it had come out. But even then, like, nobody wanted to learn UDK because it was about to be obsolete. But, like, people who are working, like companies who are working on projects in Unreal Engine 3 weren't gonna change to Unreal Engine 4 as soon as UE4 came out.
Yeah.
So even though
Hey,
Unreal 3 was effectively obsolete, people, you didn't want to learn it, but people who knew it, or people who,
Yeah.
people still needed to, like, they didn't want to, but they kind of still needed to.
Yeah, newer projects aren't going to keep using 3 when 4 is readily available.
Yeah,
A better
new
language is
projects,
readily
yeah.
available. But there are still older projects still running that are still running 3 that people would still be working on in 3. And the gaming industry at least has the benefit of, unless you're working in MMOs or whatever, in which case their servers may never be updated. But games at least have the benefit of, once the game's done, they can start the next game in a new language. But you'll get stuff like networks and server information for things like banks that they can't just update their entire infrastructure every time a new programming language comes out, or there's a new addition to C++, or when C# came out. And like everybody's running C++, C# came out, you can't just change every infrastructure to C# when C++ works fine. You just have to make sure when you hire somebody they know C++. And then that'll eventually go until C++ is effectively obsolete because we've moved to beyond C#, beyond whatever comes after that and after that and after that, that are going to be much, much better languages. But you'll still have stuff running C++. You still have stuff running C right now. That, like, if you learned nothing but C++, you'd have a very hard time understanding what's going on in C. But stuff's still running as C right now, because it's impractical for them to update a perfectly fine infrastructure to a new programming language when what they have is fine. They just have to have somebody that can maintain it. Okay, back to what I was doing. Okay, oh, which actually reminds me, I had a class in... One of the classes I took in college was it was effectively a class about how to learn a programming language. And instead of the entire... They intentionally made the course, not just the course, the entire, like, program, the bachelor's program, they made it not about, you have to learn how to use this one language. They instead made it, you have to know how to program, because languages change. You can learn a new language whenever, but it's hard to learn how to program. And one of the classes we had was just very basically, here's like 40 different programming languages. And we each got to pick one, we each got to do like a study of it and figuring out how things work, and to very briefly teach the rest of the class about our one programming language. So we were exposed to how so many different programming languages worked. That way, when we go out into the field, we're going to find a programming language that we've not encountered before, a version of it we've not encountered before. And this way, our brains were more adept at adapting to this language, to this new language, and we're more able to learn how to use it. Okay, back to what I was doing. Kuiper, you're not too late. I'll probably be going for another hour or so. I haven't actually done much. I started talking about programming. Okay, so I feel like the easiest thing for me to do is to add 3 local variables for left check, right check, down check. What's today's garbage room? I'm trying to work on the roulette block right now. I get the feeling this is going pretty quickly, and I know how I'm going to do it, but I feel like I'm not going to be able to get to work on another one. After this, I would be working on the ghost block. Let's see here, so I'm going to want to... To be honest, Vicious Slayer, I'm not super excited about E3 either. At least not as like a big thing. I'm interested in what games are coming out, because there may be some stuff coming out that I think is kind of interesting, and I think it'd be neat to know about it. My overarching problem is I don't have a lot of interest in sitting down and watching a whole presentation, half of which is going to be stuff I don't care about. I do realize, though, that since kind of my job and livelihood is ingrained in video games and game development, that I should probably be paying more attention to it than I am. I'm gonna have to try to catch the VODs or something.
I'll read the clip notes.
Next thing about a VOD is I can also just skip through it when they get to the part that I don't care about. Okay, so I set these. Okay, pick all gem. Gem x is equal to temp x minus gem size so we would pick all gems. I'm just gonna check right here for gem type is not equal to 10. And then I just gotta do this again. Now, one of the issues with the consoles all effectively being PCs in a different box at this point is it comes down to the game development architecture, which is to say, how easy is it for people to develop a game for this system? And it's very easy to develop games for PC. This is known architecture, it's common architecture, we're all aware of it and how it works. So when you get the developers, and Nintendo has suffered due to this in the past. I forget which system it was that Nintendo made that was notoriously difficult to program for, which is why that particular system got, like, no games. I think it may have been the Wii U for all I know. I'm sure it was the Wii U. The Wii was, like, crazy. There's no way the Wii would have gotten that far if it was difficult to... Yeah, like, the Wii U was notoriously difficult to program for.
Yeah, I'm sure the Wii wasn't easy, but...
And they suffered for it. Nobody wanted to develop games for it, so there was, like, almost no third-party support for the Wii U. So one thing they did with the Switch was move to more common architecture so it's easier to develop for, so hopefully they get some more third-party developers. Okay, so I do this, and I've got that. As long as left check equals 1. Right check equals 1. Down check equals 1. So as long as at least one of those equals 1. If none of those are 1, then at this point it should just destroy itself and not do anything, so who cares? Hey there, Jam Kingy. So there, as long as at least one of them is 1... Vicious Layer, it was also kind of a different environment in gaming at the time, where a developer, especially nowadays, simply can't just throw money at working on difficult hardware just because that hardware could potentially do something fancy for them. They have to know that it's going to get them a decent return off of it. Back in the day, you could experiment a little bit more. If you saw some good games for a system, you could spend a little bit more money to make sure you could develop for that system and make something really nice. Which then, if there were good games for it, people would buy it. If people are buying it, then you can make a game that people are going to buy. But in the current era, where we've got to cut every corner we absolutely can, that's just not really... You can't just throw money at, like, working on difficult hardware. Like, right now, everybody's in the mindset of, we're gonna work on whatever's easiest to develop for. Because...
It costs so damn much.
Because it costs a lot of money to make a game. Okay, so as at least, while at least one of them is 1. Like, it's kind of crappy talking about it because, like, I would love to say, like, dude, let's just make good games. We should make good games. Wouldn't it be cool if we could all make good games? Like, it's kind of crappy that so much of it comes down to business and the need to make money.
Yeah, I mean, it's crappy that it comes down to that, but also, like, it has to come down to that because it costs so much to make games.
Yeah, like, especially AAA games right now.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Like, you can't.
And game devs are still being overworked and underpaid.
Like, you can't spend 4 years and millions of dollars on a pet project that you don't care about money, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so how do I want to do this? Oh, another reason the PS1 was more successful was it was cheaper to develop games because they weren't making cartridges. And because it was cheaper to develop games, you got a lot of stuff that was shoveled onto it. Not just shovelware per se, but like more simpler pet projects. Since it was easy, or since it cost less to develop for it, you just got more games. And more games means more wide appeal, even if the games aren't going to be as good. Like, I look at my library of games, and I've got a good half dozen to a dozen 64 games, whereas I've got probably 24 PS1 games. And it's just because there was just more. Okay, so temp ran. Okay, I'm gonna need temp random because I'm gonna need a place to store this random number I'm gonna generate. I'm with you there, Kuiper. Itinerant, like, indies are on the up and up, for sure, but I mean, just paying attention to what's going on E3 would tell you where we are, still. And it's clear that some of the old stuff is dying off, but, like, nothing else is, like, nothing is... It's just that new car smell is gone, is all. Do I have to make two temporary variables for this? I've been talking so much and not actually programming at all. At this point, I'm not going to get anything done. I'm just going to make another local variable. Okay, so we should leave that now, and temp random should be a number. A randomly generated number that's pointing to one of existing blocks. Okay, so I called break gems. Actually, I can just put this in here and then I don't have to do anything. And I can go in here and just put in a stop loop. So I don't have to do this loop check. Which means I don't need a loop check up here, which means I don't need loop check here. So there, just loop forever.
My cow got out!
Oh no. So I need to know what color gem
Cow! Ah! I got the cow back in. That was difficult. You can't, like, lead cows around like you can in Minecraft.
Hmm. Okay, so this should have the correct gem.
Is he stuck on the door? Okay, the cow is free. The cow is back in his pen and not stuck in the door.
Can a UID of an item or of a sprite be 0?
I don't know. The unique ID?
Yeah.
Um, I don't. Not sure. Hold on. There's only one way to find out. Yes. But only the first object you've ever made.
Yeah. That it is at least, though, is important. Or that it can be at least is important.
I mean, like, I don't know what you're doing, but if you're checking for the first object you've ever made, then yes, it can be 0.
Like, the problem is that it's possible.
Huh.
So what I can do, though, is just go here and say So I'm just going to set this variable to the gems UID plus 1. And then I'm going to remember to subtract 1 when I actually use it later. Alright. So, theoretically, this should work. We may never truly know. Dang it, I broke the program.
No.
Okay, well, we're not going to worry about that for now. Okay, that's cool. That worked. Man, quit dropping it in the same spot. Okay. Couldn't have gone in one of those holes, could you? There we go. So the problem is exactly what we thought it was. Which is everything works perfectly right up until this. How did I get the idea for the main mechanic of this game? Grabbing, dropping for vertical. Honest to goodness, Magical Drop 3. I was so sad about what happened to Magical Drop 5, because I was super excited about Magical Drop 5. Like, I love Magical Drop 3. I love Magical Drop 3. When I heard they were making a Magical Drop 5, I was super excited, and I made, like, I don't know, I made a good half-dozen videos on 5 and all the patches they were doing it and all kinds of stuff. And I think one thing I was really excited for was being able to, like, play with everybody else, and especially as excited as I was for it, I wanted to, like, hold a tournament or something. Find a way to give a, like, make a video on the channel, get a bunch of people to participate. And, like, give the winner of a tournament or whatever a prize or something, I don't know. But, like, I wanted to do that. But that would have required... For one, that would have required the netplay getting up and running in 5. And I think it would have also involved people just generally not being as disappointed with 5. So I was so sad about what happened to 5, because I was so hopeful for it. It would have been so great. And I still think one thing I would absolutely love to do is, once I'm done with this, I want to hold a public tournament. And, like, I don't know, give the winner something. But mostly it was that I was... Like, mostly the whole idea for wanting to do this came from that I was so sad about how 5 turned out, I just figured I'm just gonna make my own stupid game. And then I just did a bunch of research into various competitive puzzle games and the mechanics therein, and trying to figure out where I wanted to... If I was gonna make my own game, where I would want to take it. Like, what I liked about some games, what I didn't like about others. Okay, wait a minute. 1, so that should have matched down, but it didn't. So that one checked left. That one checked down. No, 1 is right. That was a 2, though. It found down, and it random 2. So that should have checked down. But it didn't. put 2 is down. Two is down. Oh, I'm an idiot. That's the problem. Who would have thought? Who would have thought the last 20 minutes weren't spent on me being an idiot?
What is this problem? It could not possibly be my fault. It's my fault.
It was my... Yeah, who was that? That was, what's his name? Ryan Davis?
Yeah.
Adventure Lamp guy? What is this problem? It could not possibly be my fault. 20 minutes later, it was my fault. Okay, let's go back to doing this, and theoretically it'll work. Yay! Oh yeah, look at that crap. Look at how crap that grate is. What I really want to do is get one to fall on the... What the... It checked right! Oh my goodness! It did! Oh, that was amazing! It checked to the right and it got rid of all those yellows. Oh, that was amazing.
So, I unlocked the witch's hut in Stardew Valley.
Hmm.
And I knew the two, you were a terrible person shrines of like the memory and
Yeah.
things. And I forgot that there was a third one that lets monsters spawn at night on your farm.
Hmm.
And the offering to make that happen is a strange bun.
Hmm.
I think it's a cooking item, but it reminds me of meat bun.
Oh. Yeah, quota right now is not working, but... Yeah. Quota's not working. I didn't expect it to. I didn't put anything in for that. But otherwise, it's working. You can see it randomly selects its direction, so it's selecting down. And it destroys that one and gets rid of it. Okay, so in order to get it to add quota correctly... I'm gonna have to go down to the break gems.
I'm gonna need a lot of fiber. I did not realize Junimo nuts needed 100 fiber. Where the fuck is my horse? Oh no. My horse is gone. He's like on the opposite side of the planet.
Okay, so it looks like it's just as simple as setting quota target on the gem. Which the break gems actually by default sets them all to 0. So it should be as simple as passing another variable into break gems. And then setting quota target to function.param 0, 1, 2, 3. And then up here, under roulette block, down here at the bottom, when I actually call break gem, I just add another parameter and make it 1. That should send it to the correct person. So it looks like this is the only other place I call it. So I should be able to just add a 0 at the end of that one. It'll probably default to 0, so it shouldn't be that big a deal anyway. Okay, let's try this crap out. Yes! Those 3 still go to that person correctly. Yes!
Alright.
I think I'm done.
Oh man.
Ugh. Construct 2 does have a free version, but it's very limited. For one, it only allows you 100 lines of code, which you can do a surprising amount on 100 lines of code, but you can't do any very large projects in it. Even what I have right now for this puzzle game is sitting at 236 lines of code. So it's got, you can do some work in it, but not a huge amount. I do think, though, I do think Construct 2 is certainly worth the money if you're going to be going into that. Another option is Construct 3, which just launched recently, which goes on a subscription base, which I'm not personally as fond of, where it's a lower cost, but you have to pay monthly.
It's actually...
Oh, is it like yearly or something?
Yeah, it's yearly.
Okay, it's yearly cost.
Which... It's honestly like buying Construct 2 once a year.
Oh, the yearly cost for 3 is as much as just 2 flat out?
I don't think so. I think 2 is technically more expensive.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Okay, so 3 may have a cheaper yearly cost than 2.
But 2 you only have to buy once.
Yeah. The 2 you only have to buy once, though, and you're done. 3 does have some things that actually make a recurring payment helpful, and very nice, but it's not worth it, and it's not worth it for me right now.
So, Construct 2 is currently $130. That's Construct 2 is $130.
Okay, Construct 2 is $130. Once.
Construct 3 is $99 per year.
3 is $99 a year. Just in case they can't hear you.
Yeah. And right now, 3 isn't as different. Like, 3 isn't different enough from 2 to make me go, yeah, I'm jumping on that.
Yeah, and kind of the issue with 3 right now, and me and you have talked about this before, is right now 3 is very similar to 2, but what they did was they kind of hit a brick wall in developing and furthering 2 due to how the underlying technology worked. There's not a lot more they can do to improve on 2. without changing the engine around completely. So what they did with 3 was they've got that underlying engine done and completed. And right now, it's very similar to 2, only with a different payment system, but with the possibility of them adding new things in the being able to add new things in the future that they were simply unable to add in 2. So, to be honest, right now, get 2. Just get 2 right now.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on 3, because they can add new things to 3 now that they simply are unable to add to 2. And so hopefully we'll see some things here in the future that actually look very nice. To be honest though, as long as 2 continues to be supported, I don't know if I would ever especially upgrade. Like, I can't think of a lot that I would want that would make me want to get a new engine. Like, 2 does pretty much everything I want it to. I mean, it's weird sometimes, like when I try to set an object's coordinates to variables and then reference it based on those variables and it can't find it. If they could fix that one, it'd be cool. Okay, I think we got this garbage done, though. It does exactly what it needs to do. It picks a random direction of blocks that it can find, gets rid of those blocks, good to go. It also works if it's not on anything, so that's cool. Roulette block is done. So what we have left, then, is the rainbow block, the cloud block, and the ghost block. Now, the rainbow block... The rainbow block is going to be tricky, because it's effectively going to be if you make a match that counts the rainbow block amongst them, while the rainbow block is the correct color, it takes the entire match and gives points to the opponent. So that's what we're looking at for the rainbow block, and what's going to be hard about that is currently I search through blocks to destroy for a match with this recursive break gems function. And the trouble, and what I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to handle, is if I find something halfway through this recursion, how do I apply a variable to everything that this recursive function found? Like, if I find something, everything the recursive function finds after that, it'll find, and I could potentially get a kind of a main path backswing back to where it started the recursion, but if it ever, before reaching the rainbow gem, if it went up a branch, getting rid of those gems, and then back down that branch to the main path and then continued on, I cannot detect that branch. Not with the recursive function as it currently is. So I'm not entirely sure how to do that one. The cloud block is also going to be similar, in that it's going to take place during this recursive search. If at any point it finds a cloud block, it destroys the cloud block, gives all points to everything else. Hmm.
which works differently than Construct 2's, because Construct 2 you have to be connected to the same network, and it works via network IP. With Remote Preview, it creates a temporary URL using like constructs or Skira's servers that you can share. Like, if I'm streaming game development, I can post the URL in the chat and people can test the game and play the game live. And then if I make a change, I can update, and then everybody will get a notification that says, like, this has been updated. Do you want to switch to the updated version? And, like, that, to me, is probably the only feature that Construct 3 has right now that's like, whoa, you know?
Yeah. So, like, my overarching problem right now is finding those branches in the recursion, because the cloud block would work pretty much identically, where it just needs to search through the recursive function, and when it finds a cloud block, send every match that it found on that recursive search, and set the target differently. That's the problem. Or I should say, that's what I need to do, but the problem is that any branches in it found before that, I cannot get to. Like, they are gone from the search routine. So I don't know how I'm going to do that. The only thing I can honestly think is doing some weird kind of setting a return variable, and if it gets that return variable, when it gets back to, like, the initial call of the function, it just calls it again. And does the whole recursion thing again. That's all I can think of. That one's gonna be hard. Once I get the rainbow block down, though, I can do the cloud block super easy. Now, the ghost block, on the other hand, shouldn't be too hard. Maybe. No, never mind. The ghost block is going to have the exact same problem as the rainbow block and the cloud block. Ugh. If they're gonna have all three of my remaining blocks have these exact same problem. Like, they all three left have this recursion problem. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking before I stream next. Or do something else, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what you mean, Forged, and I'm also not sure how that helps. Oh, I see what you mean, Forged, but that doesn't solve my problem right now. That's probably about what I'd need to do anyway, but my issue is the recursion can't find branches in its own recursive search that it's already passed by. Oh, maybe I have to draw a picture or something. Figure that out.
See what you mean? Like this, if it's looking for up, down, left, right, it's passed up, it can't look it up again?
Yeah, hold up. I'm gonna draw a picture. Okay, let's make you 10 by 10. Okay, I'm gonna make this purple one be the rainbow block. And let's just pretend all these other reds are all reds, I guess. It doesn't matter. Let me get like an off yellow. Let me get like an orangey or something. Okay, so say Okay, so say this is what the whole thing looks like. We've got the two yellows right here with a rainbow block between them, and everything else is red. If I throw down 3 yellows right here, that'll make a match, which will get rid of all. That'll make a match, which should then get rid of these 3 gems, and then branch in and get rid of those 3 gems. So it should get rid of all of those. So how the recursive function is going to look through this is it's going to start by searching at this block and say, okay, that's the block. We found that one. We've marked it as needed to be destroyed. It's then going to look through the next block, or it's then going to be sent from that block to the next one, this one, and go, okay, cool, we got that one. It's from that one going to be sent next to this one, and mark that one for, okay, that one needs to be destroyed. Got it. Now from here, from this bottom one, it says, okay, we can't find any more blocks. There's no more blocks for us to search to from this one. So we're just going to delete the block outright and go back up to this second block. And then this second block says, okay, we're just going to keep looking. And it finds this one and goes, okay, cool, we should get rid of that one. And then it's going to go from that one and go and look at this next one, the rainbow block, and say, hey, it's a rainbow block. Okay, cool, we should get rid of that one. But we should also mark these for having gotten, like, for the points going to the opponent. So I'll mark that as a darker red, I guess. You know what? No, I'll mark that as green. I'll mark it as a darker green, so it stands out more. There. So we mark that one for, yeah, this one needs to be deleted, and the points need to go to the opponent. And then it's going to keep searching. And now we know at this point that everything we find, all points need to go to the opponent. So it can look back, it'll keep looking from here and find this next one and go, okay, there's one more block over here to destroy. So we're going to mark that one for destruction, send points to the opponent. Cool beans. Now from here, it cannot find any more blocks. So it's going to go, okay, we can't find anything else, so we're going to destroy this block and return back to this one. And then it's going to be at this one and say, okay, we can't find any more blocks, we're going to destroy this block and go back to this one. And now we're on this one, and we can, at this point, still say, hey, we still found that one block that said we needed to change things, so we're going to go ahead and make this one still marked for destruction, but points have to go to the opponent. So we're going to check that. But then we still can't find any more, so we're going to destroy and go back to this one. And then same thing here. We're on this one. We know points need to go to the opponent, so we can mark point, go to the opponent, but can't find anything else, so we destroy it and go back to this top one. Same thing, we know points go to opponent, so we can mark that, destroy it, and go back to the opponent. Now they're all gone, but only those had the point go to the opponent.
I see what your problem is. Okay. You can do something? Oh.
This one's a head scratcher.
You could do something where instead of immediately applying the points for a match, you could put them in. Okay, how do you handle two simultaneous separate matches on the opposite sides of the screen of one person? Are they handled, like, at the same time, or do you handle one batch and then the next batch?
So, like, if if player 1 tossed 3 down and player 2 tossed 3 down?
If player 1 matches one match on the left side of their screen, and then a completely separate match somewhere else, like simultaneously, or near simultaneously. That won't happen in the same frame, will it?
It shouldn't. But if it does, it's going to have to do one at a time.
Okay. What you
Like, just by the nature of how programs work, it would have to do one at a time.
Yeah.
And so the recursion would go through and mark everything to be destroyed. So, like, the whole thing would be marked to destroy. And so by the time the second one got around to it, it would see, hey, this block's already been marked to destroy.
So I guess what I'm asking is...
Or I should say, technically, they're just all gone.
I guess what I'm asking is, if you have a temporary variable that is affected by the first match, will it reset before it gets to the second match?
It should.
Okay, so what you could do is, instead of destroying the block...
It's all recursive, though. I'd have to, like, pass...
Instead of destroying the block, that block, and putting the points where they go, destroy the block and put the points in a temporary variable. And then, if you get to the end of that whole recursive segment and you've not marked any block as points go to the opponent, send that. For every block you destroy, add 1 point to the temporary variable, and then if any of those blocks had points go to the opponent, send the whole temporary variable to the opponent. Like, the blocks are destroyed at the same time, but instead of adding the points to the opponent, or adding the points right away, instead of adding the points right away, you just add it to a temporary variable.
That's going to change a lot of underlying stuff.
Any changes will change a lot of underlying stuff.
Well, none of the other blocks have.
And
Like specifically what I'm talking about is, I don't actually destroy a block when I find it and mark it for destruction. I set its animation to destroy. I set the target that the quota needs to go to, and then I set destroyed to 1. And then from there, I wait for the destroyed animation to be over. And when the animation is over...
Well, here's what you would do. Instead of setting quota target, You would put quota target up here, I guess, above this scope.
This is a recursive function, I can't do that. I mean, I could make it a global variable.
You couldn't put it up here above this scope?
That would be global.
I didn't know if you had that in any other groups or not. I mean, if it's global, then whatever.
I mean, even if it did, I kind of don't like the idea of doing that anyway, just by the nature of recursion. Like, I've called this function like 14 times going down. I don't like the idea of messing with a variable that's just kind of in a group scope above the function call. In that situation, I would want to make it global
Okay,
anyway.
then make it global. It's
But
moot.
quota target just says who this target is going to.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it doesn't say anything about points, it doesn't say anything about anything else. And I need to set quota target on a particular gem instead of just adding a number. I don't just add these up and give the points to the person. I've got a whole big block of everything up here that says, like, I'm spawning the sparks and the effects that go to the right person based on who the quota is going to. Like, I need to set the quota target on each gem. I can't just add it up and then distribute it later. Oh, and Forged of Souls, kind of what you suggested is very similar to what Barry suggested. Just counting the points first and adding them to quota later. But if I think of that in terms of recursion, what I would probably end up doing there is if I have to mark them to a target later, like if I count all the points first and then mark them later, I would just be doing the recursion twice. Which is sort of what I'm leading towards having to do anyway.
You honestly might have to do that.
Like, just search through the first time, and if I find one of these, then I know, and then run it again.
Yeah, you honestly might have to.
Which is kind of a pain in the butt. And not exactly efficient. But...
I mean, unless you're willing to change a lot of underlying structures.
Yeah, like, at this point, I would be... At this point, changing that and figuring out how that would work, I would be reprogramming pretty much all of how the sparks work, which I use in a lot of places. Like, I would be reprogramming a lot.
No, Muffin. I know you precious beast.
If it says anything about how unenthusiastic I would be about changing how that little bit is programmed, I'd be taking a break from working on this for a while.
Then don't do it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when I would start again. I think my only other option is double recursion, and I don't like it, but I can't think of another way to do it. And what I would have to do is...
On the upside, you would
That's
only
under
have to do
effects.
double recursion, because you could search through the first time and say, if you find a rainbow block, or a cloud block, or a whatever other block,
Yeah.
mark this variable.
But yeah, because the whole thing is they're all just points go to the opponent.
Yeah.
I could just loop through the to-be-destroyed gems. I could, but it would be very difficult to tell which ones were marked by this and which ones were marked beforehand.
Yeah, if it's going on
Because, like, say you make one match on the left side of the screen, It'll make the whole match do the whole dealio, and then the destroyed animation goes for a second. And so while it's going, you make another match on the right-hand side of the screen. That's just a combo.
I just realized...
That's just how you combo.
I just realized that there is a massive indent where I sit on my foot.
Oh.
Like, how I sit like this.
Yeah.
There's a massive indent right there.
Yeah. So, it would be... Like, just by the nature of the combo, I'd be looping through all the ones on the left and all the ones on the right. And there'd be no easy way to tell if I needed the ones on the left or not when I was checking the ones on the right. And I would need to know, because otherwise I would be setting, like, the ones on the left also going to the opponent. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a think, but I'm feeling like good old double recursion may be my...
Look, stop eating recursion.
I don't want to eat more recursion. It tastes like poop and wastes my day. Well, I really can't think of another way to do this. I'll give it a think, though. See if I can come up with some way to make it a little more efficient. Ooh, that's not honey, that's recursion. Like, don't get me wrong, I love recursion, but if I can make this any more efficient, I'd like to. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and call the stream, and we can worry about eating some recursion next time. So good night, everybody. We at least got the one gem made, and we've learned of the terrible fate that awaits us.
Good luck.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.